This podcast is about purpose, pathways, and perspectives. It's still called Three Ps in a Pod. I'm Lenora, your host, and I'm talking about a topic, or really, I have a guest, an expert, a true national expert, talking about an incredibly important topic that I think every one of us should have a decent understanding of. And this is loaded with great information. So enjoy listening and pass this one on about mental health. This is sponsored by LenoraDiane.com. Dr. Jantz, it is so wonderful to have you on this podcast.
Good to be with you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share a little bit about your background, and I really want you to tell the audience a little bit about kind of how you got to doing what you're doing. But for those listening, Dr. Greg Jantz is truly a mental health expert who over 30 years ago pioneered whole person holistic care. He's a leader in the holistic treatment, and he doesn't do a one size fits all approach. He actually has, get this, 37 best-selling books. He's got a national radio program, is regularly featured or has articles in Psychology Today, Thrive Global. He works with depression, eating disorders, anxiety, relationship issues, drug and alcohol addictions, and more. I mean, I could spend this whole time just talking about everything you've done. And then A Place of Hope is a top 10 facility in the U.S. for the treatment of depression. So thank you for taking the time to be on this podcast, because you have been interviewed many times on many platforms.
Oh, Lenora, absolutely. And what you're doing is important.
Thank you. And you know what, I can tell you a little bit where I remember first meeting you is I had read your book called, this was a long time ago.
Okay.
I had read Healing the Scars of Emotional Abuse. And
that would have been a while ago.
It was a while ago. And it was one of those, it's like, okay, it doesn't just give you stuff to do. It was a heart touching, like, wow.
Yeah.
And then when I met you, I thought, wait, you wrote that? And I was a little starstruck because just knowing the content, and I hadn't really met authors before.
Yeah.
Now you've written so many more, and you're one of the happiest people I've ever met. You're just a light. So how did you get into doing what you do and taking a holistic approach?
Years ago when I was in school and my major was psychology, I go, oh, you know what? These people in psychology, they're kind of strange. and I just felt like there was a missing piece to the puzzle. So I met my wife in school, and LaFawn and I had a vision for what ended up being called the Center, A Place of Hope. Mm-hmm. And actually we're going to start this next year, 38 years.
Wow.
And so, and what our philosophy is we need to address the whole person in order to have long-term success. And that means that's why we even have dietitians on staff. We have natural health care. We've got our medical team, as well as, everybody coming here gets a fitness assessment. We want to cover the whole person, and faith, and as far as healing and trauma for the past. So it's that whole person piece. And we really do believe that people can have healing and recovery in this interesting season that we've been in. There's a pandemic, but there's also three different epidemics. One is that of anxiety, which just means people in huge numbers have been experiencing really some chronic anxiety, as well as we've got the depression that's there. That's number two. Number three really is a sleep, or I should say a lack of sleep epidemic that we're having in our country. So there's a lot going on. We really believe that you've got to address the whole person, and that's really our foundation. We do it as a team. So every client coming here, we handpick, based upon their needs, a team for them. And we're like a hospital. People come here 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever they may need. And we're still serving folks who are coming in from all over the country. So we believe, this is a time where caring for our mental health is really, really important.
My goodness, yes. And thank you for saying that so well, that there are these three major things going on. And I talked to some people where they're is it the anxiety keeping them awake, or is it, like you're saying, you're checking into what's the physical imbalances versus the actual situations going on, the circumstances, habits?
Right.
Is it all
Yeah.
that?
It's all that. You think about right now, folks have been 9 months plus under some really significant chronic stress. And if we
Mm-hmm.
take, and there's been confinement, so to speak, people have been
Mm-hmm.
confined, isolated.
Right.
And really what we're having right now is people don't know what their future holds. And
Yeah.
so a lot of folks are in this place of some despair. That
Mm-hmm.
anxiety has led to despair, and people are not necessarily thinking clearly because they're so overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, I mean, it's hard to say, but suicide rates have certainly increased. We know among our 12 to 17-year-old youth that suicide is way up in that age range. Interestingly, right now, the next growing area of suicide is men about 50 and above. And so these numbers are alarming, but we're living in a time right now where there's a great deal of despair.
And yeah, it troubles me to hear that. That's why I so wanted to have a conversation, because I think, do you think people think that it's just they need to work harder, or it's their fault, or somehow they can just work it out on their own and don't recognize they need to get help?
Well, I
What's the
think
common reason people don't reach out for help?
Well, one of the things going on is we're seeing addiction rates increase so much. Alcohol, depending on where you live, alcohol sales are 500 to 600% higher than, and which is an amazing thing to think about. That
Right.
it used to be, and I did a little experiment here at the grocery store
Mm-hmm.
locally. I did put my head around the plexiglass and go, "Hey, what's the biggest seller right now?"
Oh.
And she kind of chuckled. She said, "Well, it's not toilet paper anymore." She says,
Mm.
"It's alcohol. We can barely keep it on the shelves." This is just one grocery store. And this is what people are doing. So addiction rates are up. People are coping maybe secretly with alcohol, or maybe it's food.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we find is there's a real shame about getting help. And so now that so many are working from home, they're actually starting to consume alcohol even earlier in the day.
Because they're there, it's
So,
already there right around them.
yeah. So there's a lot of this going on, and people are feeling I think one of the big things is no sense of control.
Yeah,
Um,
you don't feel like you can control, you can't stop what's hindering us. You can't,
yeah.
yeah, you feel like you don't have control over your circumstances.
Businesses, church, everything's got some kind of a limit on it.
Right.
And there's always the fear there's going to be more. And that's why I say confinement, because we're
Mm-hmm.
confining people. And after a while, people reach a point of saturation. They can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm. So, what are some of the best things they can do if they find, if someone listening or they know someone who is feeling like, okay, yeah, I've been doing some of those things, and your sleep isn't good, and you're realizing, yeah, it's all this floating on a sea of question marks and all the confinement, all those things. How would you, how do you encourage people to go ahead and reach out? Now, not everybody may or
Yeah.
may not be able to go to a facility. What are some
Sure.
things they can do to begin to to have some hope for solutions?
I know this may sound simple, but what's happened is because of what's going on, our basic self-care is really suffering. And here's what I mean by that. People are not, exercising or moving like they maybe were before.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what's interesting. The higher the anxiety levels, the less water people drink. I
Oh,
go, what?
interesting.
Yeah. So they drink other things. So are you
Mm.
just drinking? Are you drinking your water? Where's mine? Okay, here it is.
I
We
have
got to be.
mine. I have mine.
Okay, we got to be drinking our water. It's
For
really
general
interesting.
hydration is really healthy for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. By the way, water does affect mood. So have a glass. The whole area of just being maybe overloaded with media, news.
I've turned so
There's,
much of it off. I've turned it way, 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 way,
yeah.
way, because
Well,
there's so
and
much I can't control. So
yeah,
why you
exactly.
keep feeding the
Yeah.
same things or versions of it in my head?
Yes. People are feeling a sense of betrayal It's
Mm,
like I don't know if I can trust this news or this news source, or
right.
and so there's a sense of betrayal, which means I don't know what to believe. And
Hmm.
that's not a good place for folks. The more they're isolated, the more we tend to do self-destructive behaviors. So we're pulling back where we need to be reaching out.
Hmm. Even if it's a phone call to a friend, getting out for a walk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, in fact, we ask our staff, get out there, walk 20 minutes a couple times a day, and keep moving, get outside. This is so important. It's easy not to do it right now.
Mhm.
And, like, oh, the gym is closed. Oh, but you're still going to go for a walk.
Yeah. Well, what do you do? What do you recommend when you're living on like a sea of question marks? How do you mentally approach that when you're like, uh, we don't know when the answer is going to be here? Now we have some great hope with some vaccines and various things, but still so much is going on. What do you do with all those
Yes.
question marks? How do you make that okay? Some personalities probably are better at doing that than others too.
Lenore, sometimes we are living with the question marks, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know what the answer is or how long I'll have to wait for the answer.
Hmm.
Here's what I know: do everything you can to keep yourself healthy,
Hmm.
whole person, cover all the bases. One of the things that might be helpful is uh, maybe it's creating a journal, or maybe it's I'm going to revisit maybe it's my life goals right now.
Hmm.
I'm going to write out some things. Don't wait for a New Year's resolution or say,
Right.
yeah, 2021 is going to be so much better. Make some goals now and start to take some baby steps towards those.
Hmm.
Maybe yours is activity or movement, or by noon every day I'm going to make sure I drink all my water. But have
Hmm.
some baby step goals and start to create some movement. The other thing is have three, maybe no more than five, but three key people in your life that you can reach out to, that you can tell the truth. People are hypersensitive right now. Oh, there's a
Hmm.
lot of just criticalness and
Yeah.
people making judgments, and people are hypersensitive right now. Well,
Hmm.
have three. They're usually non-family members, but three, maybe three to
Okay.
five people that are good for you. They're gonna speak truth into your life. We're gonna do this together. We all take a turn. We all have a down day. We all have
Hmm.
days that, I don't know, and we can feel overwhelmed. And overwhelmed, usually we pull back. And I want us to reach out.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I think I've seen having a routine is kind of helpful. You're
Yes.
right. It is so easy to,
Yeah.
especially when it's gone on this long, to let go of more and more of what has kept you strong in a routine because you start
Yeah.
feeling like it's such a blur of one week blending into the next or what your load may or may not be for work. So
Yeah. Yeah.
routine is a pretty big deal, huh?
Routine's a very important deal. One of the things, and build in some creative routines.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that actually my wife did for our whole family is she put on our all of our devices, she put a notification that comes on every day. And I'm reading it right now. It says one person a day. One person a day. What do you mean? And and she says it's a reminder. There's one person a day that you're going to see or be in touch with that needs a good word. Maybe they need a meal, but just be alert so we're not so self-absorbed with just our own fears,
Right.
that you're going to see other people in need. And remember, be alert to that and reach out.
That's good. A few times I've done that where I've a couple times with my own brother said, "Hey," was calling him kind of like, "Hey, encourage me." And I ended up, we've done it for each other where you flip and all of a sudden you're like, I called, but I'm encouraging that him or
Yeah.
encouraging a friend. And you get off the phone all encouraged, but you were the one who actually gave out. We've flipped turns of who's receiving what, but
Yes.
giving
Yes.
out filled my tank a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Now, you talked about the hope for recovery, because I know sometimes, and I've talked to some people when they thought about getting maybe some supplements or prescription for some help, that they think, well, if I do that, it's forever. And they've heard all these stories and they don't want to be forever on a pill or something. But can you talk about maybe a balance there. How do you get that kind of help, but it's not going to be forever, or can you have full recovery? Talk a little
Sure.
bit about that.
Yeah, I think right now there's folks that they're feeling their despair or the depression, or I'm feeling like I can't even function. I think of a guy that here recently was sharing the experience of being on the freeway and just breaking out in a cold sweat, and his heart's racing and he's
Mhm.
blurry vision, and he worked himself off the freeway to the side of the road, and he thought he was having a heart attack. Well,
Mm.
really what was happening was he was having a panic attack.
Mm.
And so we're seeing more of these episodes of fear that push you over to the edge.
Mhm.
So one of the things to remember is we don't have to, that's a warning sign. That's just saying, hey, your body's had enough and
Yeah.
we need to look at doing some things. So this is the time that there is help available.
Mhm.
And this is the time where we need to reach out, find out what the options are. Right now, for folks that are in a pretty critical red zone, I think, we always look at medication as a good bridge to, we got to get across the stormy river, but we
Mhm.
need to do right now really those things, so we're not alone,
Right.
and so we have the support we need. And there are some pretty good options available, even from a virtual sense.
Virtual sense meaning, what do you mean by virtual sense?
Oh, I was just sharing with somebody earlier today that there's even, some great support groups that, for those that aren't meeting in person, they're even meeting online. I'm going to go,
Mhm.
okay, plug in right now.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We have a alumni program that is virtual, and people from all over the country plug in once a
Mhm.
week. And here's what's interesting: they, no matter where you live, they're all experiencing the same thing.
Mhm.
Okay, sometimes to one degree or another, but we're all experiencing some very similar things, and we need each
Right.
other.
Yeah. So is there a way other people can get involved in that if they want to, in the ones you have, or just how do they find resources like that?
You know, One of the things that we have found is sometimes there is a waiting list on some of these resources, and there is a higher need than ever before for good mental health resources.
Mhm.
Certainly, we can share some things that we know that are available, and that could be a simple phone call to the center, a place of hope.
Mhm.
But today, maybe if you feel like, man, I'm on that edge, or I'm feeling this despair, this is a day then to reach out and just say, I'm going to find out what the options are.
Mhm. So even taking those steps. Yeah, I found that just
Yes.
taking some steps. And I know when I felt like, what the heck was I going to do to just get forward? My mantra became, and it wasn't even really about mental health at that time. It was like I didn't know for sure what my direction was for whatever for my career or
Right.
future,
Yeah.
and just felt like, Lenore, just take a step every day. If that's Google something, read,
I
about it.
agree. That's
Start and
right.
just each, and it just brings hope because you're taking a step rather than stuck looking internal and like you're spinning but not really getting anywhere.
If you don't know what to do, oh, I'm looking out my window. Go outside and say, I'm going to go for a walk for 20 minutes. It's amazing the things that'll come to you.
Mm.
Get
Yeah.
some movement going. Sometimes I'm just struggling and you just stay in one spot.
Mhm.
Just get some movement going.
Oh, that's very powerful. And I know you can, what do you use, your phone or a piece of paper to just jot down thoughts?
Yeah.
Or, and I wasn't a big journaler because I always thought I had to write a book or something. And I was just like, I don't have that kind of time or
Yeah.
focus. But you just jotting thoughts and things to help, as I was processing something or learning something. So why is journaling so helpful? Or can it
One of
be?
the things is when we put it on paper and we begin and we can look at it and go, okay, it helps us to deal with some reality oftentimes if we're being
Mm-hmm.
truthful. The other piece is writing it down begins to the process of lessening some of the power. It's draining a little bit out of our brain. I'm going to write this down and this is where I'm going to leave it right now. I can come back to it. But it's a way of helping us then maybe even prioritize some things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about folks who are struggling right now, and there's so much fear in their life, and they feel out of control or they feel controlled,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really kind of holding themselves up, and they're not feeling particularly productive, not feeling creative, feeling way too alone.
Hmm.
Those are all cues or warning signs that, okay, I need to change something and change it now.
Yeah, because it's like it's something that's getting just thicker and feels heavier and heavier. So yeah, so thank you. The signs to reach out, that really real sense of alone, or that's anxiety, not being able to sleep. And like you said, we can do some of the simple things to help, but to reach out is so
Yeah.
smart. I think it takes more strength to reach out than to think you can always power through on your own. Being vulnerable,
Right.
to be vulnerable and say,
Yeah.
hey, welcome to human. We need help. We need each other.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know that at times you feel like, well, because I mentioned addiction rates are up. At times you can feel like, okay, well, I've been secretly drinking, or I'm doing some things to cope, and it's not working well. But then you feel maybe some shame or embarrassment. Go, well, I can't tell anybody what I'm really doing, and that's kind of keeps us stuck.
So what do you recommend? How do they get yourself out of, it doesn't work to stay stuck. So,
Yeah, I need to make a decision. Today's the day I'm going to be truthful. And look at, how am I dealing with the following emotions? Anger or hurt. Am I just feeling like there's so much anger inside, or hurt? That hurt maybe gets transformed into depression. How am I dealing with fear? Is fear moved up to the top of my list? Am I feeling so much fear? Could be fear of health, fear of a virus, fear of the future. But fear just has a ripple effect. It can affect our whole being. Um,
mhm.
all of our emotions. So how am I doing with fear? And the final one, I'd say, do a checkpoint. How am I doing with guilt or shame? Am I feeling guilty about some things? Am I feeling ashamed? These are the, if you will, maybe the three toxic emotions that can paralyze you to keep you from doing anything. Anger and hurt and fear and feeling guilty, those can keep you trapped.
Yeah, we got to realize they're very, very, very common. We all wrestle with these things, and sometimes someone can look like they're all fine, but they're struggling just like you are. And we just have to go,
Yeah,
it's okay. We got to
that's
reach out.
right.
Yeah, I don't know any time that somebody who hasn't had some time where they've really needed to just say, I need help.
Yeah, that's right.
I think one of the best things we can do, at least in this season, is get rid of that stigma that you're somehow never supposed to need help, and you can always figure it out yourself, and you're just exhausted, and we need each other.
Let's say we all have our turn.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
all have our turn with something. Yeah.
Anything you want to add to options for right now, or thoughts someone should take? You've shared so much already, but
Well, also be careful about what's going in. How are we keeping good information coming in? There's a lot of information that we can be totally saturated. Uh,
right. Is our mind kind of like, I've been thinking of like a Google search engine, or that, what they call the reticular activation system or whatever. And you're building, the more you look at something, the more you'll see of it. And if it's on the negative focus, and it can't, sometimes it almost feels addicting to hear that next crisis story because it's what else is going on. But that's a very unhealthy, draining, quote, addiction just for the negative news, because we've heard so much. We're almost like, well, I got to hear the next thing, but it's sucking energy out of you. How do you, can we almost be like an addiction to feel that sorrow or that fear?
yes. And one of the things when we get into this real negative place, and I understand how we can get there and how we
Oh,
got there,
yeah.
but we kind of end up looking for more and more things that just keep reinforcing that. And it's
Now,
hard
why
to,
do you think we do that? What?
it's
Because
hard, it's hard to
I've
get.
been there.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, because once you begin to feel like there's no hope, it's easy to land there.
Mm.
And remember, hope comes when we start to create a plan. Sometimes we need somebody to help us with that.
Mm-hmm.
But think in terms, if you feel like hope's gone, um, it's time to partner up and create at least a beginning plan. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's some things we are out of control of. There's some things happening that is beyond us, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's not where we're going to put our point of focus.
Mm-hmm.
Our point of focus is on those things with ourselves and our loved ones that we can have an influence with. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where we need to keep that point of focus right now.
That's good. So find some people to reach out to. Focus on what you can do, the simple things. I know because years ago I was in that place where I got hopeless for a while. It's not a fun
Yeah.
place. And to get to where you have hope again for your future. And it is, for me, it was a number of things. It was eating better. It was reaching out. It was change, realizing some of my habits. I probably should have done something. It probably would have been a quicker process had I gotten some temporary medical support. But you just start taking those steps.
Yes.
And one of the best things I could have done was reach out sooner.
Hmm.
So,
I'm
yeah.
glad you mentioned that because oftentimes we'll hear people say things like, I just wish I would have done something sooner. I suffered way too long. So, yeah.
Somebody told me, what I had talked to him, he was a friend and kind of a counselor too, and he'd said, hey, Lenora, you need to lower your pain tolerance.
There
And
you
I was like,
go.
what? You're thinking of an actual wound, but he's like, no, you have let this get overwhelming to the point where you seriously cannot bear. And he's like, lower the pain tolerance, speak up sooner. And that was a huge nugget for me. And I've kept it forever to go, I'm not going to let it go to that level of pain. I am reaching out.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I just think, welcome to human. When I
Yeah.
really kind of accepted, Lenora, you're human. You need people. That's what humans do. That helped too. I just lower the pain tolerance, reach out, and to know that absolutely you can get to a great place again. Absolutely you can. I mean, where it's better than even was before. It may not look like it at the time, but boy, can it become great again.
I agree. Yeah.
So I know if they want to connect more with your resources, I'll make sure that the link to your website and stuff is on the podcast notes. But it's called The Center, A Place of Hope. And then the many, many books you have cover so many of these different topics, which I like to get information to help me, like getting tools in my toolkit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other final words for their next step?
I think the next step is to make a decision. In some way, I'm going to reach out and gather more information. Could be a resource. It might be the latest book I did was Healing Depression for Life. And, if it's depression, get a resource. Begin today to say, you know what, I'm going to take the initial steps to change direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And then drink that water, take the right stuff down, do the simple stuff too, move around.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such important work that you do. Thank you so much. You and your wife are amazing, and your staff, whenever I've talked to them, just even reaching out to you, gosh, I've been always blown away by the customer service. Seriously, you've impressed, and again, we only talked a few times over the last years, and I've always been, okay, these guys stand out. So people, whoever reaches out to you, you have a wonderful team.
That's our desire. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and we will talk again, I know.
Okay, you got it. Thank you, Lenore.
I hope you subscribe to this podcast so you can hear when every episode comes out. And as mentioned above, the link to the Center, A Place of Hope, is in the podcast notes. And whether this information is for you or for someone you know, I think it's important that all of us learn how we can better take care of ourselves and our mental health. Thanks for listening.